So they were saying to me, okay, if you roll the money from this 401k, these shares, from a 401k into an IRA, you're going to put it in such a situation where he's going to miss out on, if he sold the stock, if it's saved in the 401k, he's going to get a capital gain, right? As opposed to paying ordinary income on it. Okay, so that was the point of them bringing up this little matter. Okay, let's say you buy some Apple stock. And you buy it, and I'll make up the numbers, $50 a share. $25. And less than a year from now, 11 months from now, the $50, your stock, Apple goes from $50 to $100 a share. Okay? And you decide you're going to sell it in the 11th month. Okay. If you sell it in the 11th month, or less than a year. Okay. Then when you made that profit from 50 to 100, that profit would be called a short-term capital gain.
Because you didn't keep it at least a year.
I didn't keep it less than a year.
Okay.
If you keep an investment like that, any kind of stock or any kind of investment for less than a year, that's a short-term capital gain.
Okay.
And it's taxed at your same taxable rate. So I'm at a 24% tax bracket.
Okay, yeah, okay. I know they got to, yeah.
Okay, so based on where you are, there's a 12, a 10, a 12, a 22, a 24, and it keeps going. Right?
Okay.
So if I had sold that stock, 24% of my profit would be, I'd have to send down the scan. Okay. If I kept it for one more month, the 12th month, over a year, a year and a day, okay, and I sold that same stock, I then pay a long-term capital gain.
It's still going to get you on the capital gain, but it's just going to be.
But now it's 15% instead of 24%.
Oh, big difference.
If you are in a lower tax basis, let's say you're in a 12% tax bracket, your maximum tax bracket capital gain, long-term capital gain tax is what, 8?
I think so.
It's 8. So you would pay, if you're in a 12% tax bracket and you had bought the stock and you're in that tax bracket, you'd only pay 8% tax. Mm-hmm. So you save a lot of money by selling that investment as a capital gain. Okay. So now let's say that same Apple stock, or a mutual fund, we'll just say any kind of mutual fund. You own a mutual fund. You take $50, you put it in a mutual fund IRA. Okay, a retirement account.
Okay.
It's a traditional IRA, and you put your $50 in there, and it's worth $100 when you're 59 and a half, when you're ready to retire. Mm-hmm. When you take that $100 out, no matter how much money you made, anytime you take money from a retirement account, it's taxed as ordinary income.
Okay.
So it's taxed at your regular tax bracket.
Okay.
So 24%. There are no capital gains in retirement accounts.
Okay.
Everything that comes out of our retirement account is taxed as ordinary income. I'm always thinking about is taxable effect on the client. He has $600,000+ sitting in the 401k.
Okay.
99.9% of the time, when you have money sitting in an old 401k, if you were to take the money out, it would be taxed at ordinary income. Mm-hmm. But in this particular instance, this stock was put in this 401k in such a manner that if you sold the stock, mm-hmm. then you would not pay ordinary income tax. You'd pay a capital gain.
Okay. From the way it was put in.
Right, by the way it was put in. Okay, so the lady at Fidelity, now you got to remember also the people at Fidelity have a limited scope. They're not completely trained in everything. Okay.
Oh, okay.
They only know what they see on the screen.
Okay.
It tells them. Okay. She's a retired school teacher. He works for a lighting company. He's a vice president for a lighting company. So she throws this back at me. She said, "Are you sure you still want to roll over these shares?" Because here we are on speaker. When you do rollovers with Fidelity and Empower and Merrill Lynch and Wells Fargo, whatever, a lot of times nowadays you can process a rollover just over the phone. So I always coach my clients is exactly what's going to happen.
Okay.
Okay. Because one of the things that help you in work with money, there's already fear built into the whole situation, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, and the client is nervous because they're moving $750,000. Okay. So, which is quite a bit of money for the average person, right? So So one of the things you want to do as an advisor is reduce as much fear as possible because it helps the whole thing go much smoother. So I always tell the client, here's what's going to happen. I tell them the whole scenario. I tell them when we call Fidelity, we're going to put them on speakerphone. Okay, they're going to first verify who you are to make sure you are who you are. They're going to send you a text. You're going to text back the numbers they gave, or you can tell them the number they just texted you to verify, make sure you are who you say you are. Once they do that, you're going to tell them you're on speakerphone with your financial advisor. And then I'll say my name. I'll say, I'm Eric Hoffman. I'm with BFS Investments. They want to know whoever's in the room.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Listening to the conversation.
Sure.
Okay.
So then they will ask the stockholder or shareholder, do you give me permission to talk about your finances in front of your advisor? Yes. And so, matter of fact, my client will say, my advisor will tell you what to do next. So then I'll tell them, okay, what we need to do is we want to, in this particular instance, we want to roll over all the money that's in this 401k to a traditional IRA. We want to leave $50 of the Eaton stock only. See, at first she said, do you want to do a pro rata? And I told her, I don't like ratas. They bite you. Pro rata would be, let's say he had $400,000 worth of Eaton stock, but he also has some funds. They would take the same percentage of the total account and make it $50,000. So 60% of the money they kept would be only the Eaton stock, and then the other 40% would be other stuff. Well, that's not what I wanted.
Okay.
I wanted only the Eaton stock, right?
Okay.
So I just want $50,000 Eaton stock left in there. If I have 40% of $1 million, right, is in Eaton stock, but I'm only going to have $100,000 in the account, they're going to keep it at 40%. Keep the same proportions no matter what size the account. So then they said, well, we have these shares in here. If you do this and you grow them to traditional IRA, the client would be then putting in an account. They could have gotten capital gains. They could have sold these shares at long-term capital gains instead. I said, well, that still. So then I thought it through. I said, it's still not a good idea. Okay, to sell the shares and get the capital gain. Now, the reason I'm talking about this, there's a lot of pieces to this. Number one, if I did not understand the rules of how stuff worked, if you didn't have the experience of what to do, it would be very easy to make you not know what to do.
Okay.
Right?
Makes sense.
And when you as the advisor don't know what to do, it tells the client that they got someone that doesn't know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Okay. So it increases the fear, and probably 9 out of 10 advisors would have been stumped. So we know that if you own stock outside a retirement account and you sell it, that's the long term. If you own it for more than a year,
More than a year,
so we know that.
Short, right.
The only other way you can have, so I thought it through. I said, okay, if I said, okay, we're not going to roll the Eaton stock. We're going to leave the $400,000 Eaton stock, and we're going to sell this. Or I said, well, so what's our options? I did ask the Fidelity lady, can I move the Eaton stock into a non-retirement? I was trying to use words where my client would understand what I was saying too. That's the other thing. There's certain vernacular or certain terms in the financial industry, then I understand it, she understands it, the client doesn't understand. So I said, I don't want to do that, because the more you use words that the client doesn't understand, the more the fear goes up, right? We can open a non-program account that hold the shares, but then I said, well, that still creates a problem. We still don't want $400,000 worth of Eaton stock. We only want $50,000 Eaton stock. So if I were to sell, let's say we did what they suggested. So let's say we move the $400,000 of Eaton stock into a non-retirement account, and we still don't want but $50,000 of it. So then I had the client sell $350,000 worth of stock. Okay, that's not a retirement account. Okay, so that $350,000 would go into a cash account. Then I could invest it in a regular mutual fund, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they would have paid the capital gain when we sold the $350,000 big stock, right? But then, if I had put the $350,000 stock in mutual funds, what do mutual funds do every year? What do you have to claim if it's not a retirement account?
Mm-hmm.
What happens with that account every year?
Yeah.
You're gonna have capital gains and dividends paid
Every year?
every year on the whole amount.
No longer qualified.
So right, so because they're gonna have in a mutual fund, they're gonna have Home Depot and Coca-Cola and all these different stocks in there, right? So they're gonna be buying and selling these different stocks. These different stocks have been paying dividends, right? Well, guess what? You have to pay taxes on that too. Okay, so you got to remember that originally the Fidelity person was saying you don't want to do this because you're going to put your client in a situation you're going to pay a lot more money in taxes,
Mm-hmm.
which on the surface sounds correct,
Mm-hmm.
but in reality it's incorrect. Okay, because if we didn't want this large amount of money in one stock, which is what we said we didn't want, there were no reason we're moving money, then we would then I'd put in a regulation. They'd be paying taxes every year on this money from capital gains and dividends forever. They would pay way more money in taxes on this $350,000 by moving it out of our 401k into a non-retirement account, which is really the term is non-qualified account. A non-retirement account is a non-qualified account. Okay, so that's the term I wanted to use. But I knew the client would know what that is.
Okay.
So I used non-retirement accounts.
What would it do to the client if you just got the conversation with Fidelity? Excuse me just a second, I will explain this to my client.
Oh, I did that.
Yeah, qualified account is a retirement account.
Yeah, well, I chose not to use the word because I chose to use words that everybody understood.
Right.
But yeah, if I would have said non-qualified account,
Mm-hmm.
I would have backed up and said, well, and I'd say, let me explain to my client what that means.
Mm-hmm.
This means non-retirement. It means that it's not going to grow tax deferred anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you got to remember that $350,000. If it sold the stock, it'd be a capital gain. We had it in the mutual fund. They'd be capital gains and dividends on that money forever. You could say, well, why don't you just put the money in a Roth IRA? Well, the guy makes too much money to put in a Roth IRA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and how much money could he put in a Roth per year? $8,000. How long would it take to move $350,000 of money? In a long time, right?
No.
So he's not going to live that long. So he would pay more taxes by doing the way they suggested than doing the way I'm doing. Because now, okay, so let's say, so I told him keep the $50,000. We're not going to sell those shares, so there's no tax involved, right? We're going to move the $350,000 for the EAT stock and roll it into an IRA, right? So now we're selling those shares and putting it and rolling it into an IRA. Okay, well, if the money is inside an IRA or a 401k, you sell the shares, is that so? And you transfer it, then it's not taxed at all. There's no taxable event when we moved it from the 401k to an IRA.
No taxes.
With no taxes. Okay. So now, once it's in that IRA, that $350,000 is in that IRA mutual fund. Okay. The only taxes you're ever going to pay on that is the money you take out. Okay. So the client's never going to take $350,000 in a big lump sum out all at once. They're going to take a month. Typically, when you retire, you take a monthly check. My clients take a monthly check out. So let's say 5%. 5% of $400,000 is $20,000 a year, right? So let's say they take $20,000 a year off it. Well, now they're paying that ordinary income tax on the $20,000. Well, that's way less money than paying capital gains tax on $400,000.
Well, yes, less money.
Okay, so and that money that we're not taking out, that $380,000 we're not taking out, is still growing tax deferred. You're still not paying taxes on it as it grows. So I explained that both to the Fidelity lady and to my clients when I had them on the phone. I said, here's the deal. Initially, what she's saying, they should pay, you pay a capital gain, you'd only pay capital gains if you sold the stock. The problem is that once it's out of retirement account, it's now out the air, and everything it makes is gonna be subject to taxation for as long as you have it.
Okay.
So you just took it out of a situation that was advantageous and put it in a non-advantageous situation. So by leaving it in a retirement account, keeping it tax deferred, that's the best option. And so once my clients understood that, they got it. Then so my main thought was I want to make sure they understand what's going on. They don't think I'm pulling the wool over their eyes. Right. They understand that what I'm doing and why I'm doing it.
Absolutely.
I researched Eaton. Whenever I sit down with any client's portfolio, I look at it. You can go to Morningstar and read about Eaton. And Eaton, their thing is they build energy plants, electric plants.
Not going out of business anytime soon.
Well, AI, artificial intelligence,
Okay.
depends heavily on energy production. We're going to have double the energy production in the United States to have artificial intelligence. Okay. So a company like that is going to go up in value at a very fast rate because they're going to be using their products to build these these data centers. I grew up in Texas. Growing up, we used to live in North Texas, and my grandma and grandpa lived in Bastrop, which is near Austin. And when we used to ride from Fort Worth down to Bastrop, we'd go through a town called Taylor, Texas, which is a little pea of a town. Okay.
Yep.
Well, now Taylor, Texas has a data center. Everyone wants to move to Taylor, Texas. Back when I was driving through Taylor, Texas, no one wanted to live in Taylor, Texas.
True.
Is it a good idea? And I told them I use the same scenario. Primerica gives me lots of stock. It has gone from $15 a share to $250 a share. I still once in a while will sell some of my Primerica stock. I'm fixing to do that right now, and put it in into something else. I'm going to sell part of it because it doesn't make any sense to have too much money in any one thing.
I know.
Overnight, it could be another Boeing. They can have all their electric plants they're building blow up. There's different things that happen that can cause a company to be worth a lot one day and nothing the next. Kmart is gone, right? Delta stock is worth zero right now. Me and Primerica stock has just killed it. Okay, but it still doesn't mean I'm leaving all my money, a big chunk of my money in Primerica stock.
You're not gonna. That would be crazy for you to put it all there if something happens. So
Right.
you're still keeping
Just
your
leave it
money
because
diverse.
we wake up one day and something major happened in Primerica and have all my stock, a big chunk of my account
Yeah.
in that.
That makes sense.
I look at my stuff least of all. I rarely look at my own stuff.
Wow.
I
You're
look
not
at
like glued to it
I look
every
at
day,
everybody
every
else's.
week.
I look at everybody else's stuff. I look at mine. You know, a painter's house is never painted.
That's right.
Yeah. That.
I see everyone down.
I just want to bring up that scenario because, number one, it could happen to you, and I wanted to talk about it because if you're doing rollovers, it's probably going to happen at some point. Number two, you need to understand the basic rules of selling any investment and the taxable effects of selling such investments. And know what your options are and think it through. Because initially, like I said, it sounded like a good idea, but if you think it through, it turns out not to be a good idea.
Okay.
And just think if I was an advisor that didn't think it through, I would have put my client at a disadvantage. A week ago, the client was ready to roll over their money with me.
Okay.
Okay. But I did not do business with them.
Okay.
I will not do business with them. A lot of advisors, if they think the client's ready to go, they'll do business with them. Okay. But I'm not going to do business with them until I make sure I completely know what I'm going to tell them what to do.
Wow.
And I can't do that unless I sit down at home. I sit in my office, look at their stuff, and
Okay.
think it through, and think about what I'm going to do with what I think is the best option for them.
Okay.
So that's what I do. I don't care what happens. I always get their statements,
Okay.
like their 401k statements, all this stuff. I say I'm going to go to my office. I'm going to look at it, think about it, put a plan together, and next week I'll come back with you, and I'll tell you what we need to do. Their initial thought was they were going to take that $600,000 and build a new house. Before I said, yeah, we're not doing that. okay, we're gonna take the 600 grand, invest that 600 grand along with all the other money and give you a monthly check so you can buy anything, then you'll have nobody to make the payment on the house.
To pay on it, okay,
Yeah.
versus taking your money.
Right.
Time to spend.
So now they know what they're, so I overcame an objection, that might be, it's 4 years from now, because that's when he retired, he's gonna retire in 4 years.
4 years.
4 years from now, when they decide they're gonna move to Florida and it's time to sell that house, they're gonna remember the conversation we had, that's with me, saying, we're not gonna take the money and put it in the next house. So that's how I get future investments all the time, is because I talk to them about different stages of their life, and then when that stage comes, then they remember the conversation. They know exactly what they're gonna do, because we already talked about it 4 years ago. I've done lots of rollovers from Delta, right? So, and I have lots of clients from CNN, okay? So I know, so anytime now, Ford, I have lots of clients from Ford. So if I get a client from like this, I say, oh yeah, I'm very familiar with how your program works. And so then when I can coach my clients exactly the procedure, like when we do the rollovers on the phone with Fidelity, I'll say, here's what's gonna happen. They're gonna send you the text, you're gonna verify who I am, I'm gonna talk to you. Then you can tell them, you are gonna say that you've already received within the last 6 months the tax notification statement. Okay, and then guess what they ask? Have you received the tax notification statement in the last 6 months? And so now that helps the client relax too, because they say, okay, he knows what they're gonna say. This is not the first time he's done this. I've done this 100 times, right? So it helps the client relax that I know what I'm doing too. So by knowing the steps and telling the clients all the steps involved, then it makes it, and I said, here's what's gonna happen. I'll tell them who to make the check payable to PFS Investments for benefit of client's name. They're gonna tell you it's gonna take 7 to 10 business days for it to be mailed to your house.
7 to 10 business days.
Okay, and when it gets there, you're gonna call me. I'm gonna pick up the check, I'm gonna overnight it and put it in your account. Right after it gets in your account, you're gonna get a confirmation statement from the mutual company saying that the money has been deposited in your account. And so I walk them through the whole process so they know exactly what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it. And they relax. Okay, I hope everybody has an HB12 season. 20 years, to live like $3,000 a month today, how much money are they gonna have to have?
That would be 54, 18,
I don't know, I got
33.
That's how much money they need in 20 years, right?
20 years.
Okay, so now we need to know the number of what's the total amount they need to have so they can draw that much money out every single month without pulling it down. What number do we multiply that number towards? That will give you the answer you need. What's our withdrawal rate? What percent withdrawal rate do we use? Go ahead and divide by 5% is what? 240 is the number.
I'd have to get you.
When in doubt, use 240. So multiply
240.
multiply 240 times that 54,
Okay,
whatever you had. What do you get?
Okay. Hold on.
3,000 present value. Inflation rate, that's 3%.
3%.
20 years, 20, N, no PMT, future value, 5418. We take that, we multiply 240 times that number. We get $1,300,400.09. So that's how much money they need to have. Okay, stop right there. So here's a guy that has a couple $1,000s in his 401k.
Okay.
He's 43, and he wants to retire early.
Yeah, how early?
Yeah. So I show him this number. How does he feel?
He's terrified, discouraged.
He's 43.
He's
He wants to
43.
retire early.
And he has only a couple $1,000s saved, and he needs to have that.
Problems thinking like there's no way.
Okay, remember, here's the key to doing business. Make them sick, make them well. Okay, make them feel how there's no way they're gonna make it. Because 1.3 million, he feels like there's no way he can do it.
Okay, so how would
He's never seen $1 million in his life. No.
Yeah. So,
Their total cost to live is $3,000. They're carrying home $5,600. Where's the other $2,600 going? It's going to miscellaneous. In the last couple of years, they bought some stuff that I thought was stuff they should not have bought, and I told them that. So watch this. I said, take $2,000 now a month for 20 years at 12%, how much money do you get? $2,000 a month payment. What rate of return? 12. How often? Compounded how often? Monthly. Blue G. Anytime you do monthly compounding, it's blue G. Then how many years? 20. Blue G N. 0 PV. FV. Does he have enough money to retire on? Well, he was supposed to have, he needed 1.3 million.
Yeah, so he
Now he's got
has
$1.9 million. Nearly
Yeah.
2, right?
Yeah.
So I made him sick with $1.3 million, but I asked questions. I found out that if he took the money he was blowing, he'd have more than enough to retire. You make them sick. You show them how, if they don't do business with you, they are not going to make it. And that's the fact. They wouldn't. Would they have ever done this without? If they had never met me, or you, or any of us that do this, would they ever make it?
No,
No.
no.
So they need us, right? That's why we deserve to be paid. I get people from Delta all the time because I help somebody pick out their 401k choices. They're a mechanic or whatever, and one of their buddies next to them needs help, right? So people talk to each other at work,
Right.
and they realize they're not going down the right road.
Okay.
Okay, and now and they don't realize until they're 43 years old. We don't have a plan for retirement because we think we can figure it out. Okay, it has to get so bad that we finally realize we have to get so lost in the woods that we just finally decide we need help. By then, most times it's too late. Okay, so that's just, we have pride issues. So the bottom line is you can help them, but so now we showed him what they need. He opened his eyes. Oh wow, I need $1.3 million. We helped them realize that they're blowing money. And I told him, I said, having money and getting to the point where you have money takes a completely different mindset. You have to be disciplined. You have to decide you're going to do it and then stick with it. I want y'all to go home. I want y'all to talk about it. I want you to come up with a number. I said, if you come up with $100 a month, you're not going to make it. Okay? But I also don't want a pie in the sky number. I want you to give me some number that you say you're going to do it, and you do it one time, and you don't do it anymore. I want you and your wife to sit down and talk about what amount of money that you're willing to put back every single month so we can hit the number we're trying to get. And I said, once you come up with that number, let me know. We'll set up time to get back together, and we'll get everything going. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put money in an emergency fund.
Yes.
We're going to build up $10,000 in your emergency fund before we even get going on retirement. So the other thing we're going to do is we're going to have your wife, she's going to get the 401k and start getting her match.
Okay.
I'm going to pick out the investments, and then you're going to come up with a number where you can tell me every month that you're going to put back that so we can get you where you want to go. So she's going to put 6% of her paycheck from now on her 401k. So that's going to subtract from what you have. But I need to know a number. So when you come back here, let me know what that number is. If I call them, it's more important to me.
But if they call you.
They call them. If they call me, it's important to them. I do this all the time. And you know what? About a third of the time they'll call me back. I always tell my Taekwondo kids there's two things in life. Results and reasons. Okay, you're either going to do something or you're going to say you can do something. There's a verse in the Bible about that. What's it? Wide is the path, and narrow is the way.
Yeah.
Narrow is the
Yeah.
way that leadeth unto
Yeah.
life, and few there be that find it.
Yep, that's right. So it's the narrow path that most people aren't willing to go down. There was no problem for them to give me $750,000. Why? Because they knew I could help.
Okay.
They knew I knew more than them. They trusted me. They knew I'd do the right thing by them. So they did the business. The ones that have $7,500 have a death grip on that
They're
$7,500.
scared to death, they're going to lose it.
They're afraid they're going to lose that.
Robert Kiyosaki in Rich Dad Poor Dad got one of the smartest things I've ever heard. He said, I never met a rich person who never lost any money. But I know a whole bunch of poor people that never lost any money.
That's right. They accept that part of making money, there's a certain degree of risk associated with making money. Poor people don't want any risk associated with making money. So they never make it. Broke people that have no clue about money, they will always make the wrong decision. When I ran the numbers, these kids were not only going to have a really nice house, but they're gonna end up with a lot of money down the road.
Yep.
Okay? So when I see something like that, I get excited about it.